And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast. I am here tonight, as per usual, with my co-host, Carlos. How are you doing this evening, Carlos, on a Tuesday like usual?
James, I'm doing well. It's a pretty calm Tuesday night over here in DC. Nothing crazy going on. Got to see the Georgetown men's soccer team pull off a nice W today.
Hell yeah.
In between classes. They beat James Madison, who was ranked number 9 in the country, probably will not be anymore after today. We beat them 2-0 in a pretty dominant fashion. Very fun thing to watch. All my friends on the team balled out. So I'm having a good soccer weekend, I guess. If you take the result that we'll talk about in a little bit as a partial victory, maybe not. Either way, decent weekend, decent Monday and Tuesday so far. Looking forward for a good week ahead. James, how is your day going? What's been going on in your life post Rowdies?
Yeah, I did not take any midday breaks for soccer, unfortunately. I wish I had been able to do that, but in the meantime, yeah, there was obviously a very good game this past weekend, so we can get to that one instead and, wish Georgetown all the best in the meantime. But, yeah, this past weekend, the Rowdies went away to San Antonio and drew 3-3 in a absolutely wild game. The ups and downs, it was just absurd. Thank you to everyone who came to our last watch party of the year, at least officially. If things change, obviously you will hear about it, but we went for, I think, the last 4 months doing one each month. So that was fantastic. They were all at Berry House. So thank you, Berry House. Of course, thank you everyone who attended even one of these. I met a bunch of new fans and friends through these. Carlos, I met a lot more of your family as well. So it was super fun, and I think that everybody who came had a very good time. And I hope that we can get these going again in the future, like sometime obviously next year when we can hopefully get even more people to come and join us. I think that would be awesome. But in our own standings, let's get to that next. The guest spot is on 24 points. Well done to all of our guests who have contributed. Eureka is on 23 points. Congratulations to our producer. Carlos, you are on 21, and I am still dragging behind on 18 points. But I will have another chance to get back anywhere near you guys because we have another home game this weekend that we need to preview, and that will be against Memphis 901 FC. So before we get into everything, one last point, just want to say like and subscribe to us on YouTube or subscribe on any major podcast platform. Wherever you are, we are as well. And please follow us on social media, including Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at RBLR Sports. Now, Carlos, if you could, let's get into that game a little bit, and we can actually talk about just how up and down it was in this past crazy week in Texas.
Yeah, and an absolutely insane game. We came out with the following starting lineup, which included Connor Sparrow in goal, Jordan Doherty, Kleemann, and Lasso making up the back line. Harris, Hilton, Dennis, and Ekra making up, and Armin making up the midfield in front of them, with Kyle Jennings and JJ Williams up top as our main 2 strikers. Game started very poor in the first half with a San Antonio squad that was pretty much dominating the game, possession, chances created. Everything was kind of going their way. I actually tweeted out pretty early on that this game was had all the makings of a really ugly loss. Little did I know I would come to look like a fool, to say the least, following the end of the game. But yeah, I mean, the game started off with a really slow start for the Rowdies. San Antonio came out again, creating everything. Got on the board pretty early in the 22nd minute. Only ended up with the 1 goal in the first half. Nothing else. But again, they were creating a ton of chances. It looked like they were ready to run away with it. And the floodgates were just about ready to open. That was the only thing that happened in the first half, though. Just 6 minutes later, Forrest Lasso came off with an injury. And we were left to be playing with basically one true defender in Freddie Kleemann.
Yep.
And the rest, a variety of converted defenders. Joshua Perez came into the game for Forrest Lasso and actually ended up getting on the score sheet later on. By the end of the first half, San Antonio was up 1-0. We were down a defender, and we were playing with Freddie Kleemann as our only true defender. It was not looking great. And then all of a sudden, San Antonio goes up 2-0. 51 minutes in, it looks like game's about to go out of hand in their direction. But the Rowdies kept hanging in there, creating chances, and somehow got a goal on the board late in the game-ish in the 67th minute, J.J. Williams' goal. Just 4 minutes later, Charlie Dennis would get on the score sheet as well on a penalty. And 10 minutes after that, Joshua Perez would score his first goal for the Rowdies, and the Rowdies would go up 3-2, totally flipping the script, turning the game on its head in a matter of 14, 15 minutes at most. An absurd 15 minutes for the Rowdies. Admittedly, I had stopped watching the game by this point. After we went down 1-0 and Forrest Lasso came off, there was no way we could possibly get a point out of this. So I turned off the game and went for a walk. By the end of the game, though, James, San Antonio would actually end up equalizing in the 92nd minute in stoppage time. And what originally felt like a loss, that felt like a miracle to tie, that felt like we should win, ended up feeling like a loss at the end, even though the draw was kind of a really positive result and kind of what a lot of people were hoping for. It was an absolutely insane game. Tons of emotions here. Swing of emotions, roller coaster of emotions, to say the least. Insane stuff, James. And that was the entirety of the game. 6 goals in total. First 2 for San Antonio, 3 unanswered for the Rowdies, and then a 92nd minute equalizer, again, in stoppage time for San Antonio in what was a memorable game, to say the least. 2 of the high-scoring teams, though, put on a show. And I guess maybe we could have expected that. Again, 2 of the high-scoring teams, so it is what it is. I'm kind of curious to get into this and break this down a bit and get a feel for how you feel, James, because I think there was a bit of a discussion on Twitter about how Rowdies fans should be feeling after this game, right? It was one of those games where we came in expecting it to be a huge, huge challenge against one of the best teams in the league. Let's just jump into it. Back and forth game, James. What happened? Again, admittedly, I totally turned off the game really early on and went back and had to rewatch it. So my understanding of the game was much different emotionally than it was for someone who's watching the whole thing first time through. How did you see the game and what really happened here?
Yeah, the first half was a bit of a downer, as you have already alluded to, but I think that comes down to especially the tactics that we saw on the day. The way that I expected this game to go, I'll start there. The way that I expected this game to go was that San Antonio likes to play with 5 at the back. They don't like to be the protagonist as it is. They would like to, most of the time, let another team attack them, absorb all that pressure because they do have a very good defense and a very good goalkeeper. Yeah. And then they would like to, break in transition and try to score that way. As it happens, the team that we saw from San Antonio was extremely different from the team that we have seen them line up with in a lot of other games. Sure. So the first thing that started with San Antonio was they had a new goalkeeper. Carlos, you and I were not aware of this heading into the game. I don't think that, we had talked a little bit, RBLR, that is, had talked a little bit with a podcast that covers San Antonio. And this was not a subject that they brought up either. But there is apparently some controversy going on with the goalkeeper, Jordan Farr. Jordan Farr is their regular goalkeeper. And not only that, he is the goalkeeper who was the 2022 USL Goalkeeper of the Year, GOTY. But he was chucked away, not like, off the team entirely, but they did not want to use him in this game, and they brought in Nick Marsman on loan from Inter Miami. So that was the first big wrinkle in this game. Was not expecting that one. The next couple things that we saw was Santiago Patino started up top. Santiago Patino or Patino, I'm actually not sure, because there are a lot of different sources that have an Enye or don't. Yeah, Nathan Fogassa, a Brazilian on loan from the Portland Timbers. So all of these different weird little things that we did not expect in this game. Ultimately, it led to San Antonio playing a different way. San Antonio lined up with kind of 4 at the back. It was very traditional. It wasn't, the 5 that we're used to seeing. There are 2 center backs for Fabian Garcia and Mitch Tainter. Mitch Tainter is the 2022 USL Defender of the Year, DOTY. But it was just, a totally different idea from what I had in mind. I expected this game to be kind of I expected this game to be kind of a slog because it was probably going to be the Rowdies attacking a team sitting back and, having to defend themselves very, very well because of the way that San Antonio can then break. But yeah, it did not go that way. It was the Rowdies who were sitting mostly deeper with our 5 at the back. Those 5 were Jake Arman, Forrest Lasso, Freddie Kleemann, Jordan Doherty, and Deion Harris, as you have already said, Carlos. But we were absorbing, and it was San Antonio that was creating a lot of chances. I saw that their midfielder, Rita Zuhir and Jorge Hernandez, they were extremely important. And Ja'Cory Hayes was another midfielder who would step into the center of the midfield. He was nominally on the score sheet lined up as a left winger, but he does not play on the left. So, it was more so their left back, I think, that was getting forward a lot. And they were able to create just, a lot of dangerous situations for themselves by going out and attacking the Rowdies and trying to make us the team that had to sit back. Ultimately, the way the first goal went in, the team was able to find Nathan Fogasa again on the right wing. He had stepped out because there were, I think it was, again, Jorge Hernandez who had stepped up to kind of augment the attacking unit for San Antonio. And it was Fogasa who switched the ball back in and found Santiago Patino, and he scored the first goal. But that was a goal that was, coming for a while, Carlos. We had given up so many chances prior to that. It was kind of a question of if, or a question of when, not if. And then the next thing that happened in the first half was 6 minutes afterwards, Forrest Lasso goes down and he has to be subbed off. So we don't start this game with Aaron Guillen. We don't start this game with Connor Antley. And now we're taking Forrest Lasso off. It was it was crazy. But yeah, then the last thing that I wanted to hit on specifically for the first half was that substitution. As you said, Joshua Perez comes on and he switches the formation for the Rowdies because we cannot put him at center back or something like that. So he goes up to left back and we're kind of playing a 4-3-3. And with that, then all of a sudden that changes the dynamic again. But that does a lot more damage, I would say, in the second half. It was still in the first half that, San Antonio was kind of able to absorb our pressure and, or not, we were the ones absorbing the pressure, excuse me. And we were taking wave after wave of San Antonio's attacking units. So, Carlos, what am I missing from your perspective from the first half? It was a lot of negativity, I will say.
Oh yeah. No, that's why I made a point to tweet out, like, this game is not going to go well. By all accounts, it shouldn't have. You look at all the injuries coming in. You look at how good San Antonio was playing. I'm like, at this point, you kind of have to separate. San Antonio hadn't been in like particularly insane form or anything. It's still one of the best teams in the league, and they were playing like it. And you see us just kind of sitting back and not really doing anything, with the exception of like that insane JJ Williams chance that somehow didn't go in a few minutes after the San Antonio goal. JJ Williams had a couple shots that, to Marsman's credit, again, a guy we didn't really know existed for San Antonio, made a great couple saves there. It really wasn't looking all that great for us. And I think you kind of covered that pretty well. It really did look like we were going to get blown out in the first half. And I think it's kind of a testament to the Rowdies back line, even without Forrest Lasso, adjusting like that. And I guess Stuart Dobson as well, tactical masterclass potentially on the sideline, because for whatever reason, Nicky Law still can't get something resolved.
Another person missing. Yep.
Yeah. We didn't even mention that, by the way. It's 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row, 3 or 4.
At least 3. Because I think he was out of the Memphis game, the prior Memphis game.
Right. So, you're looking at a situation where, the coaching situation is kind of weird. 2 of your best and the most reliable defenders, and Antley, kind of an offensive threat as well, are out. You have all these injuries stacking up just as you're getting guys back like Lewis Hilton, right? So there's a ton of turnover and like roster adjustment being made on the fly. And then you add the Lasso injury after San Antonio scores on us already, and we're absorbing all this pressure. Like, there's no reason this game should have ended up in any way favorable for us, right? So like we'll get to the second half eventually, but I think like that context is really important when we get to the end of the game and we're looking at the score like, damn, we were up 3-2. We could have come out with 3 points. We could have. I'm pretty happy with the draw. Like everything considered, we'll get to the second half in a little bit again. But the context of everything that was going on in those first 20, 30 minutes in the first half and how we managed to still hold out is very, very important when determining whether you should be happy or not about this result. It still keeps us in the race for first place, by the way. We're literally within a win of doing that. Plus, we have that game in hand. Plus, we have the team in front of us, Pittsburgh, at home towards the end of the season. So hopefully we have, more of our guys back because that's going to be a huge determining factor in whether we pull ahead or not. So, like all things considered, I'm pretty happy with how that went. First half, like how the end of the game went, right? First half had nothing positive going for us other than the fact that we were only down by 1.
Right.
Which is not really what you want to hear when you're trying to fight for a first place position. So I think you hit all the main points there. I just wanted to mention that one J.J. Williams chance because it was quite literally the only chance I can think of in the entire first half. I appreciate you mentioning like Joshua Perez's role on the back line because like I think I've been like rewatching the game and looking at the highlights and it was kind of weird seeing where he fits in. He's not a left back by trade, by the way, right? I mean, he's more of a wing. He gets up.
Yeah, no, I've seen him only ever play on the right or left wing. So the fact that he came on and was able to do that and, was able to step into his role. I mean, obviously he did well, but it just changed everything up for us. Yeah.
And look, like you mentioned that the adjusted formation didn't really start creating anything for us until in the second half. It's a pretty dramatic change to shift the formation like that and bring in Joshua Perez for Forrest Lasso and have to adjust everything like that on the fly. I think it's incredibly impressive that we adjusted as well as we did. And it's seriously worth credit to whoever was making the tactical decisions, whether it was Nicky Law by phone, like wherever he is, or Stuart Dobson on the fly. Like it really is impressive stuff. So I think it's worth mentioning that as well. All in all, we probably should have gotten that goal in the J.J. Williams chance. He had Cal Jennings wide open, but in a split-second decision like that, you can't really fault him for taking the shot twice. Nothing really to do there. Marsman just made an incredible save. I think that's it in the first half. I mean, it was really characterized by San Antonio possession and significantly more chances than we had. But I think as Joshua Perez settled in, we kind of started to cut those off. There wasn't a ton going for them per se towards the end of the first half. So I think there's a lot of positives to take away from how that game went in the first half, despite how poorly it went. I know it doesn't make any sense, but thinking it through in my head, it makes a lot more sense than it did when I said the words. I think that's it in the first half, James. Am I missing anything, or should we move on to the second half?
No, let's get into the second half a little bit because that's where things did really start to change. Right. I was talking with Eureka at the watch party about some people that I saw lining up in certain places, and I saw that J.J. Williams was essentially playing. I think I had him like lining up as a left winger pretty much in the second half. And then, that kind of, he was combining with Josh Perez, who was the left winger as it was. So it was very interesting to see that role. Cal Jennings, obviously, he was allowed to sit up top. That's what he usually does. And that's where he is most effective, when he just has like a little bit of room to beat, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 players, whatever he does. And at times I saw Jan Ekra sitting as kind of a right back almost. It was very interesting. Dayon Harris came off in the 84th minute, but by then obviously a lot had happened. So it was mostly up to Dayon Harris to kind of get up the wing and his right side. And it was Charlie Dennis and Lewis Hilton who were both sitting a lot deeper in the midfield and trying to create. Sure. Charlie Dennis ultimately played a role as like, the quarterback, the playmaker. And he was doing that alongside Lewis Hilton. So yeah, it was all very interesting. Now, unfortunately, before we even got to the point where the Rowdies started to impose themselves on this game, San Antonio had not a fluke of a goal, but like a goal that was a goal that we weren't really expecting to take place within the run of play. I think that the Rowdies were better to start the second half, obviously, than the first half, but at the same time, we had not really stepped up our game.
Yeah.
Carlos, you take us through the first goal before we move on past that, because that we need to talk about how that went in. And
yeah. So are you talking about the Rowdies' first goal, or are we talking about San Antonio's second goal here?
San Antonio's second goal.
Because
San Antonio first goal is second half, which would that's San Antonio's second.
So again, at this point, just to reiterate, San Antonio's up 1-0. We're kind of getting into a rhythm again. And it's San Antonio that was on the back foot that ended up capitalizing on a counterattack. It was 3-on-2. You had Kleemann and Doherty essentially as our two center backs. Again, Doherty at center back just should never really be happening unless it's really dire. So you can see the situation just based on him being in that position. So you have three guys for San Antonio pushing up on Kleemann and Doherty. And I think they did actually a pretty good job of like slowing them down as much as possible, Kleemann and Doherty. I think Connor Sparrow, I'm looking back at the goals again. Connor Sparrow just gets caught off guard ever so slightly. And I'm sorry, I'm butchering his name. Fagaka, I'm sorry. He just kind of rips a shot towards the near post, and it wasn't all that crazy. It really feels like Connor Sparrow could have done a bit more there.
I didn't want to be overly harsh, but I do agree with
that. I mean, that's a shot where it's near post. It's really not struck all that well, to be honest. My first impression was, Kleemann probably got a touch on it and it took a weird deflection, but I'm like slowing it down and rewatching it, and that's just not the case. Connor Sparrow just gets really, really low, maybe expecting a shot to the far post, but I mean, there's no way there, right? Like on the ground, he just kind of rips it high, and Sparrow gets a hand to it, but nowhere near a strong enough hand to push it away. It just kind of dribbles into the top corner, which is, I guess, not something that you usually say. It kind of dribbled into the top corner, but it literally did. Like, you got a hand to it. It should have been a save. Nonetheless, San Antonio goes up 2-0 on a counterattack on what Connor Sparrow usually saves 9 out of 10 times.
Right, exactly.
He's a really, really good goalie. And just a couple minutes later, he demonstrated that again. He made a really crazy save. San Antonio came back and should have probably gone up 3-0. But of course, Connor Sparrow makes the insane save and gets low really quickly off of a deflection. But unfortunately couldn't make the easier save. I say that as someone who's never played goalie in my life. What looked to be an easier save. And he kept us in that game at 2-0. So it's a trade-off, I guess, right? That being said, we're down 2-0, and I think this is where things start to get a bit more interesting when I'm not watching the game and I get the notifications that we've scored 3 goals in a row. Can you walk us through some of, I guess, what happened here, James? Because, again, I think you're better at breaking down the tactics than I am. And all of a sudden, like, it doesn't really make sense to me that this worked, right? There's no real reason that we actually should have scored 3 goals in a row against a team that is playing much better than us, is much more healthy than us, and frankly was outplaying us the entire game. I guess you could say we were playing better, but I still think they had better chances and we're kind of just outdoing us. Is there something you can point to here that says, okay, this is why we started picking it up a bit? This is a player who made a huge impact here. What's going through your head when you're looking at our 3 unanswered goals in 15 minutes?
Yeah, well, I do think a lot of this comes down to Josh Perez coming on and switching things up, obviously, but then that does lead to a cascade of different things that I had just mentioned with Jan Ekra and Charlie Dennis and, JJ Williams. So, yeah, Cal Jennings, you can kind of let him do himself up top because he's a good enough player to just like cause a whole backline problems. He has, and we've seen this before his season now with the Rowdies, and now that he's joined the Rowdies, we've seen this multiple times as fans that he will just get the ball and kind of like, it's in a weird area and he can like take it and run with it and keep a player or two off of the ball and score from like the edge of the box. So he kind of just commands all of that attention on his own. And that allows other players to roam, and that's what they did. So Charlie Dennis was dropping deeper, and I saw that JJ Williams was kind of shifting out left a lot. he was combining with Josh Perez on the left side. And they actually did that on his goal, on Josh Perez's goal, but we'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, with that being said, you know, all of this attention that is being paid to Cal Jennings is being paid to JJ and Josh up top. Dayon Harris also, he's allowed to get very high because Jan Ecker is dropping a bit deeper into the right side as well. So with those different moves around, I think the first goal was Jake Arman stepping into space that was vacated because Josh Perez and JJ Williams had moved, I think, pretty much both into the center. Well, JJ was on the end of the cross, so obviously he was in the center, but I think that Perez had followed him there. And that allowed Jake Arman to step into the space that opened up on the left side. Now, the second one, both of these of our first two goals came from, you know, kind of plays on the wing. The first one, it was cleared. Actually, San Antonio cleared it out to Jake Arman, who had just been open in that space on the left side. The second one was a throw-in. Dayon Harris finds Charlie Dennis, and he just kind of has the ability to bring the ball down with two players on his back, literally on either shoulder.
Yeah,
he splits through them.
Yeah,
and they drag him down. It was beautiful to watch.
It was so sick. Like that's I think it's one of his underrated aspects, by the way, is like his dribbling and ball control. We know he can distribute well. We know he can shoot it well, but like sometimes you don't really notice that in a guy that I guess maybe isn't as quick, like how nice his dribbling and ball control is. But in a situation like that, that was impressive to watch. It was by like no really complaints there from anybody who's a neutral. It was a penalty through and through.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I say that even though I am not neutral, but at the same time, yeah, I think that Charlie Dennis did earn that penalty, and it was beautiful. With that, by the way, I will say the Rowdies pointed out via email today that Charlie Dennis did make the USL Team of the Week. Yeah. So kudos to him. I think that he deserves it for just another, you know, blazing week for him. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. JJ Williams was also on the bench, by the way. But to continue with where we were, Charlie Dennis does his thing all on his own and earns that penalty. So it was interesting to see that the first two goals kind of came from the wing, but also came from San Antonio clearing it straight to Jake Arman on the first one, and then clearing it to the point that we got a throw in on the second one. So that was kind of interesting that we were creating these chances, but like San Antonio couldn't get rid of the ball in a way that actually helped them ultimately. And they were unable to handle the pressure that we created afterwards with, you know, the ball coming back into the middle, even if that was just Charlie Dennis literally at the edge of the box. Moving forward. So that happened in the 71st minute. I guess, you know, at this point, San Antonio has had a bit of shell shock to the fact that it's 2-2. They bring off Ismaila Jome and bring on Juan Asokar, a player who they signed, I believe, from Oakland Roots last year. And yeah, he's kind of, you know, changing the thing up and changing the way they play a little bit more. With Josh Perez having come on, he forced them to switch up to playing more of their traditional five at the back. I do want to say that. So that allowed us to create a lot more chances as it got going into the second half. And as we actually figured out all of these different formational changes around where Josh Perez is going to be playing most of his time. It was super interesting to see him combining a lot more in the center. But yeah, JJ Williams, like I said, kind of out left, Jan Ecker kind of out right. All of the different runs that they're making. San Antonio, I think, kind of just got lost in it a little bit, and they were especially lost with the fact that they had to be a lot more defensive in the second half, and they couldn't just keep doing what they were doing previously. They really lost in the midfield, all of those different spaces that they had been controlling in the first half, especially. So it was kind of great the way that we responded to it. The last one came with JJ Williams and Josh Perez. Again, they were combining very well. And this one, I think it was just a long lumped ball up to JJ Williams from Kleemann, if I'm not mistaken. And he heads it down to Josh Perez. He has all of this space behind JJ Williams to run into, and he did. So he steps up into that space. Eventually, two defenders kind of slide over to where they're in between him and the goal. He takes a shot, and I guess it was Michael Williams who said that or Michael Scott, who said that Wayne Gretzky said that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and Josh Perez took a hopeful shot kind of from nothing, and it hits one of the defenders in the leg, and it bounces off his leg onto the ground up, and it does this huge loop over Nick Marsman in net for San Antonio. Doesn't know what to do about it, and suddenly it's 3-2.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Who can say? It was a lot of great play to build up to it. I will say all of that. Like, I think that the Rowdies had done superb job of responding to the game and responding to all of San Antonio's pressure. Ultimately, Jake LaCava comes on for Deon Harris. Ariel Martinez comes on for Cal Jennings to kind of see it out. And unfortunately, we were unable to do that. But the last San Antonio goal was off a corner kick.
So unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, a corner kick goal, that's just going to happen every once in however many you have, because it's impossible to defend those 100%. It just is. So, ultimately, what does that come down to? You just want to limit as many of those as you can.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that the Rowdies gave one up in the 90th plus 2 minutes, because we could have gotten out of there with 3 points that maybe we didn't deserve. But at the same time, Carlos, what did you say multiple times in this podcast already? Getting out of this game with a draw, that's what a lot of people expected, including myself. That's what a lot of people would have been super happy with. Right. The fact that it went the way that it did is why we feel differently. But if we try to ground ourselves in the predictions that we had before this game, 3-3, fair enough. We get a point. We maintain our position in the standings in the East. Let's all be as happy as we can about that, because it does feel it feels kind of different, just because of we almost snuck out of there, but a corner kick is a corner kick, and you're not going to be able to defend all of those. As I said, I'm perfectly happy with the point that we have. And I'm also happy with I do want to also point at it this way. We had the watch party for this one as well. And not to say that any watch party we've had was not fun, because I think they all were. But when you go to one, you want to see a good game, naturally. Yeah. And I will say that there are some extremely exciting 0-0 draws. There are some 0-0 draws that are not as exciting. That has happened at some of our watch parties in the past. I'll tell you what, people were absolutely drawn into this game when we were at this past watch party, because it was just like, oh my God, goal. Like, it was crazy. And the finish, obviously, it was a night to remember for us. Yeah.
Look, I think my final thoughts on the game before we kind of just move on to this man of the match and everything, right? The big picture, to summarize again, we're right behind Pittsburgh with that game in hand still, literally within punching distance. USL Tactics' algorithm, computer machine thing has us finishing in first place as its prediction with the games that are remaining. We got what we needed out of that San Antonio game, right? Like, we could have gone in there and lost and still been within punching distance, but this really keeps us right there. This is what exactly. Like, we want you. Okay, you take the 3 points, right? We've still been a point behind Pittsburgh. You want the 3 points, but the point is really what we needed in terms of trying to keep us in the fight for first place. That should be a W in everybody's mind. Bigger picture in terms of the team and just mentality. So many things that we mentioned about going into this game against a really good team away, pretty good atmosphere with your coach. God knows where, right? I mean, 2 of your best defenders are injured. Arguably your best defender and one of the best in the league gets injured during the game. You're playing with one true center back and a bunch of other converted defenders. I mean, this is what I colloquially refer to on Twitter as dog mentality. I mean, that's literally what it comes down to. I'm sorry. Like, it's just straight dog mentality. Like, it's incredible. So I'm happy with it, point to point, and it's what we needed. The resilience. I mean, you need some of these games, especially during before playoffs, because it's not going to be daisies and flowers and rainbows, right? You're going to go down a goal at some point. And if you can respond like this, with a healthy team, like, if you can respond to this with the team that you had in the situation we were working with, then I'm sure you could do it with a really healthy team and with everybody back. So I'm happy. Big picture, this is a great result, great point, and bigger picture tells you a lot about the team's character.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. All right, Carlos. Well, as you said, I think that is a good place to leave it. Let's move on to our man of the match here, and you can get us started with that. I feel like I have maybe an inkling of where you might be leaning.
Yeah, I'm my man of the match is, maybe I'm too reliant on Thought Mob for this, but Charlie Dennis, and he's on our team of the week, USL team of the week, for a reason. He played a great game, and he was crucially involved in most of our goals on the night. And even when we weren't creating the goals, or when the goals weren't coming yet, he was involved in the opportunities that we did have. Obviously, he had the goal on the penalty. He also created the penalty. So, I mean, he did the double whammy there. Like, he all around great game. Nothing new from him. I mean, this is just what we've come to expect from him. So, offensively, I think things are clicking. If they weren't already, they're continuing to click. Yeah, backline injuries and whatever, that's something to figure out, and hopefully things get better in that department. But Charlie Dennis has been the motor in our attack, and he just did it one more time and showed that you can do it even with an injured lineup.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. My man of the match might be a little surprising for folks. I'm not sure, but it is Freddie Kleemann. I only say that it might be surprising because how often do you choose your center back as a man of the match when you've given up 3 goals? I will tell you, though, my case for this is obviously, we started with 3 at the back. One of those was Freddie Kleemann, and then Forrest Lasso, Jordan Doherty on his left and right. Obviously, Forrest Lasso goes out very early, so we have to change things up. Freddie Kleemann and Jordan Doherty both adjusted very well. I think that on the second goal, the second goal the Rowdies gave up, I should say, the way that it broke down was more to do with the central midfielders and the fullbacks not helping and not tracking back with Jordan Doherty and Freddie Kleemann already. They had 2 attackers to mark up, while there was a third running at them with the ball. So it was an extremely difficult situation. I think that they did a good job to try and, mitigate that as best they could. Unfortunately, I think Connor Sparrow probably could have done a little bit better on that second one. But on the third one as well, it's just very difficult to prevent every single corner kick from going into the net. That's how it's going to be. So I think to take the situation that was forced upon you as a center back in a back 3, and then be able to handle it when it becomes a back 2 and your whole team is changing around and you got this player going there, that player going there, here and there. I think that Freddie Kleemann did an extremely good job of marshaling things at the back, and I think that defensively we picked it up a lot more in the second half. I was thinking between Jordan Doherty and Freddie Kleemann, but I think that Jordan Doherty was a little bit more culpable on the first goal than Kleemann, so ultimately it was Kleemann that I went with. And you know what? I'm going to say congratulations to the whole team, though, for their performance in this very, very captivating draw. So, Carlos, now let's get into the next thing that we have here. We have a home game to preview versus Memphis.
Right.
Despite everything that just happened, the schedule continues. We have to keep going.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't think we needed to spend too much time on this. We just previewed this game like maybe 2 episodes ago, maybe an episode ago. Like, it's the same team we played on September 6th, Wednesday, September 6th, 13 days ago. Yeah, we're playing Memphis 901 FC. I don't know why the schedule works out like this sometimes, where we get to the end of the season, we're kind of back to back, playing a team within the span of a couple of weeks. It's happening with Hartford as well, but I guess it's not, too close together. Long story short, we're playing Memphis at home, and you should be there. We just played Memphis away, again, midweek, September 6th, in what was a really disappointing loss, especially because we were kind of all over the place. That was another game that was pretty chaotic. So we've had a couple of those in the past, couple of weeks. We went up, and then we were down. Sorry, we went up, and then they equalized, and then we went up again, and then they equalized late in the 88th minute. And they ended up winning on a penalty / Forrest Lasso own goal at the end. If you don't recall that, I will remind you, and I just did. It's really, really dumb game, and a game that I don't think will play out the same way at home, obviously. Yeah, we now have a full week in between games, so we should definitely expect a better chance to win. The boys will be a lot more energized. Again, that was a Wednesday game. Everybody looked very tired by the end of that last game against Memphis. I think it was a huge, huge factor.
Oh, yeah.
Fatigue was, as you know, Memphis started to equalize and then pull away with that last minute goal. It truly, truly was fatigue, based on what I saw. So totally different circumstances here. I really don't think that result holds any weight on how this upcoming game will go, other than maybe Memphis feels a bit confident because they did win. I don't know. Long story short, like I said, last time we played this team, they seem to prefer a 4-2-3-1 with Drew Romig in net. Across the back has been Aiden McFadden, Graham Smith, Lucas Turkey, and Akeem Ward. Leston Paul, Aaron Malloy, and Luis Fernando, Bruno Lapa, and Jeremy Kelly make up the midfield and the attacking unit. Recent pickup, Rodrigo da Costa started at number 9. A new loanee, Samuel Cariaga, will be important. Da Costa has 11 goals this year, while former Rowdy, who never played a game for the Rowdies, Luis Fernando, has 7. Laurent Kitsiedu and 18-year-old Knight Pickering have 4. Malloy has 6 assists. Da Costa has 3. Pickering 4. The central midfield of Paul and Malloy with this new guy, Samuel Cariaga, is very, very strong. Malloy has the most chances created this year, as well as the most accurate long balls per 90 minute. He is their Lewis Hilton, if you're looking for a comparison. Very, very good midfielder, up there with some of the best in the league, if not one of the best in that position. The Rowdies had a tough game against them again earlier this month, but I don't think that's going to weigh too much on how the game plays out this Saturday against Memphis. James, do you want to add anything to the Memphis game, or are we telling everybody to go listen to the episode, a couple episodes ago in terms of tactical breakdown? Nothing really new. The guys to watch out for, again, Da Costa and Luis Fernando, huge attacking threats, as well as Paul and Malloy, your quarterbacks per se, in the midfield unit. Tons of different guys that can create opportunities. Pretty decent team. They are currently in 5th place in the Eastern Conference, so they're pretty good. They're coming off a win against Hartford. They play Birmingham Legion the night this episode comes out, so keep an eye on that. They'll have a midweek game, which could affect them. The game before, they lost to Monterey Bay FC at home. Monterey Bay is not that good. James, I'm probably spoiling my prediction, but I think we can expect a pretty good result if we play our game, and I guess pending the injury situation as well. What do you think?
Yeah, my main problem, again, obviously, it remains the injury situation. If Forrest Lasso is out, I don't think that this has been his best year with the Rowdies. I don't think that anybody would argue with me on that one, but at the same time, obviously, it's Forrest Lasso. He is literally and figuratively a big presence in the locker room, a big presence on the field. I don't think that he has been terrible by any means. I guess, there have been some people that I've seen saying we need to get rid of him, which I do not agree with. But
yeah, I haven't mentioned that on Twitter, but I think that's not the move either. He's by far one of the best. He's in the upper echelon, I guess, in terms of quality. He has messed up multiple times this year, though, giving up some stupid fouls, to say the least.
Yes.
But I don't think we'll particularly be missing him if he's injured. I think we did pretty well without him against San Antonio. But it's a good point to mention. He'll be one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, but along with Forrest Lasso possibly being out, we don't know what his injury situation is right now. I feel like we will get that, unfortunately, after you and I are done recording, Carlos, and probably the day before the game, if not the day of. But he will obviously be a question mark. The other question marks at the back are Aaron Gein and Connor Antley. So that's still the biggest issue plaguing this team. Yeah. Obviously, I think that you already mentioned the attack that we have right now is crazy how well it's working. Charlie Dennis is absolutely on fire. Cal Jennings is on fire. JJ Williams is on fire. They are all doing and they're all scoring in different ways. They're doing different things in the games. If we give them different tasks, they're still able to handle what we're requesting of them.
Yeah.
Our wingers are doing well. I said previously when we signed Josh Perez, I didn't think that he was going to be an incredible signing. I assumed that he was there to be, someone who serves as a depth piece, because we don't have Sebastian Dalgar, we don't have Ryan Spalding that was here earlier. Jake LaCava is in and out of the lineup at the moment, but Josh Perez just came on and he had a great game, and that was in a tough situation. I think that this team is looking extremely good outside of all of these ridiculous injuries that I cannot believe we just keep piling up. It's like at some point it's got to come back our way, right? It's got to come back, and we have to get more returnees than we do new injuries. Like eventually, I don't know when, but that's my fear. I do think that we can handle this Memphis team. They have some very good players, including Aaron Malloy and this new loanee Samuel Carriaga from Lanús in Argentina. But
so random.
Yeah, I completely out of nowhere. I didn't even pick up on him when I was doing the prior Memphis preview a couple weeks ago. So the fact that he is playing a big role now, they're going to be a good team, and they still have their Brazilian contingent, which are all very good players, all very good with the ball at their feet. I guess that's stereotypical, but in this case, for all of these Brazilians, it is true. They are good with the ball at their feet. And at least the attacking ones, Lucas Torsi, I think that he plays more at the back, but I'm sure he could juggle better than I can if we're gonna try to have that conversation. But they are all very skillful players, and they are all going to be important. However, the Rowdies can beat this team, and I will. You know what, Carlos? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say 3-1 win to the Rowdies.
No, I was literally going to say the same thing.
All right, 2-3-1 wins.
I'm not going to go with that, though, for the sake of diversifying our score lines. I'm going to say 2-0. Same margin.
2-0, okay.
Which is probably a stupid prediction now that I said it out loud, given our injury situation. But you know what? Vibes, gut feeling, we'll go for it. 2-0 win. I do think we can, and maybe I'm not going to say should. I think we can win despite the injuries. Attacking wise, I'm not really concerned about our offensive creation. I'm actually really happy where that's at. So I'm really, really excited for this game. Hopefully it's a nice game to start catching up, I guess, a bit more concretely with Pittsburgh, who's right ahead of us. So should be a good one, James. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yes, absolutely. And producer Eureka is also taking a Rowdies win, 2-1, 2-1 win. But I believe we will have a guest spot coming up here before the game is out. So please keep an eye on our Twitter feed, obviously, where we will have it. Now, Carlos, I will take us into the extra time segment here because I do want to get us started on that. Portland, Maine is getting a new pro soccer team. So that's very cool. Unfortunately, they will be in the league below us. I don't know if that means that we will ever get a chance to play them, because I think that would have to come in Open Cup, and that does not seem very likely just because of the distances involved there. But I was talking with Cameron, a regular guest of ours at, I think, all of the watch parties we've had at Berry House. So shout out to Cameron. First of all, do want to say that.
Shout out Cameron.
Yeah, cool guy. And I was talking to him specifically about, he's from Maine, he said, so that's why we were talking about it. And I just wish that there was a chance that we could get up there, because I've been to Portland now, and it's a cool city. I think that they have a really good soccer scene based on what I have heard online. And I think that they will probably have pretty good attendance. I don't know, because I do not live there, but I expect that will be the case. So I'm very happy for Portland. I'm very happy for the USL League One to have a very cool expansion announcement, and good for them. Now, Carlos, is there anything else, or do you want to take us to the last point?
Look, I'm sure we'll get to play them once we imminently get promotion or relegation in the USL, and they get promoted.
There you go.
God, that's such a stupid topic. It's so abstract. We could do a whole episode about that and how insane the conversation around Pro Rel is, and with the USL though and everything, which again, as you may remember, got announced and then got downvoted, and not even downvoted, they just didn't vote on it, remember? So who knows? Maybe we get them in the future. Maybe we get them in Open Cup one day. Maybe we schedule a friendly over there just because
at least that, yeah,
who knows? It looks like a pretty cool city. James, let's wrap up the episode here. There's just 5 regular season games remaining. And one of them's at Al Lang, and it's this weekend, and you should be there. it's going to be a blast. James, unfortunately, you won't be there, correct?
Yes,
So
my wife and I will be in Scotland for the next 2 weeks. So anyone
Oh, yeah.
listening, you have to take our spots. That's just how it
Yeah.
goes. You have to do it.
Yeah. Come take our spots. I'm not going to be there either, obviously. But I'll be cheering on the boys from up here. And again, I have my season ticket. I'll put this out there. It's a pretty big game. If you want my season ticket and you're listening at this point, shoot me a DM and I'll gladly send it over.
Actually, while you're doing that, I'll say the same thing. You want mine, and I will send you your mine as well, because we have 2 that are going to be unused otherwise.
Exactly. So there you go. 2 free tickets. If you've made it this far into the episode, please do reach out and we'll be making a point to get those to you, because we need the stadium filled. We need a good crowd. The boys always play better when there's a good crowd behind them. So I'm sure it'll be a blast anyway. So why not go have a good time, right?
There we go. All right. Well, Carlos, we have gotten through all of this despite a lot to talk about in, I think, both of these games. But yeah, we are at the end. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We always appreciate when you do that. If you've gotten this far, we ask you to do just 1 or 2 more things. Please follow RBLR Sports at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you are. You can also get at me on Twitter. I am at RBLR James K. What about you?
At Carlos TPA10 on Twitter. You'll find me crapping on James Madison University because they lost to us in the past few hours. Yeah, also pretty exciting stuff about the Rays staying officially in the Tampa Bay area. So I tweeting about that recently. Whether or not you care about them being in Tampa or not, which I think is a separate discussion. The point being, and I think the point everybody can be happy about, is that the Rays are staying in the Tampa Bay area. And that's a really good thing. Just like it wasn't more than a year ago that we were talking about them splitting a season with Montreal, right? So happy stuff on that department, whether you care about baseball or not. It's fun to have the team around still. So yeah, come follow me at Carlos TPA10, and we're back to your regularly scheduled Rowdies content this weekend.
That being said, you can also listen to RBLR's coverage of the news, because we do have a show for the Rays as well as the Lightning and the Bucks. So yeah, you can get a lot of coverage through us. But if you want to do that, obviously you'd have to like and subscribe to us. So please do that. Get the full experience on YouTube, where you can watch us talk about all of this. Or if you just want to listen to us instead, you can do that. We are on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app. We are on Apple. We are on Google Podcasts. We are wherever you are, social media, podcasts, even in your home. I'm just kidding. But
for walls
for another week and another draw, hopefully another win coming up. Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.